Welcome to episode 7 of the JR podcast. Today we're joined by Sage Matthias. He has played on 2B2T. Hi Sage, thanks for joining.
Hey James, thanks for having me.
No worries. So why don't we just jump straight into it? So how did you hear about 2B2T and when was it that you joined the server?
Basically saw the Rusher first episode video in June 2016, and then I went on to join the server probably around halfway through the month. I did play, it seemed like I played on the temp map for a bit, which is a little bit confusing, but my first screenshot is around June 23rd. So I know I'd been playing by then.
Cool. So that was kind of the temp map that House Master created because too many people were joining, I think, at the time. I think there was like thousands of people that joined. There was no queue or anything like that. So they kind of just flooded the server and took it down, I think. Wow, that's interesting. So you joined 2B2T, but you didn't really join the old map then?
Yeah, I recall being on like a map, and the spawn was, pretty pristine. It was desert, and I remember a player like dropping diamonds, and just things like that. I think maybe I don't know if it was on the temp map, but I remember going out X plus and getting shot by FitMC even with his bow moonshot Mark 5 or whatever, and I remember thinking like, oh, I think that was that guy that does the YouTube.
Amazing. So your kind of first interaction with 2B2T, and you're in the heart of it already, getting in battles with FitMC. Interesting. So when kind of the main map came back, what was your plan? Because I mean, I suppose you had a taste of what 2B2C could be like on the tech map. So when things returned and the original map came on, what were your kind of first things that you did then?
Okay, yeah, I joined as a vanilla player, and I went out. I think I'd heard about maybe like some older players being in the negative Z axis, so I traveled out that way. And spawn was still pretty untouched at certain spots. I remember maybe 1,000 blocks out, seeing some crosses, and like I found a small melon farm at about 1,300 blocks out. Yeah, found like the Valley of Furnaces and the lava pillars and whatnot, and yeah, just started getting out just in vanilla, just walking. Got a little bit off of the axis because I knew that was a bad idea to be just walking on the highway, but I found some really interesting things. I think I came across a small fishing hut, and I didn't even know at the time because it was dark and I didn't have Fulbright, but I guess it was an old 2013 base of Fitz as well. So it was kind of strange to stumble upon that. So that was what I remember finding, like 7 saddles or something, and thinking like, oh my God, this is such good loot.
I suppose the first days on the server, anything you can find, it's like perfect. That's just what I need. And I guess so. You said you were a vanilla player, so I suppose for people listening that aren't too sure what that is, so essentially you joined just with a vanilla client. You didn't have any hacks. You didn't have anything like that. You joined, when it got dark at night, you could barely see where you were going. No X-ray, no traces to let you know if anyone was coming to kill you or anything like that. So that must have been a crazy experience to join the server, completely blind almost compared to everyone else. And to do it for so long. How long did you play for in vanilla for?
Yeah, I kept going in vanilla up until I think about October, November 2016. I finally bit the bullet and downloaded like the Impact client. And yeah, that was really helpful. I think I got an alt around the same time and was able to get out of spawn, basically no deaths, and was using, I think the flight hacks were still working on ice. So you were able to travel fairly fast on ice if you ever got to a nice long patch of ice. So it was pretty cool. I mean, I definitely see the advantage of using all of the hacked clients. So after that, I kind of never looked back from that.
Yeah, I guess the difference was probably night and day, and especially on a server like 2B2T, like you really can't get by without vanilla if you want to travel, and especially if you're going anywhere near spawn. And like you said, to be able to fly on the ice and travel a lot faster, that already puts you at a huge advantage because you're not spending whole days traveling a short distance compared to if you're a vanilla. So let's fast forward a bit. A few months have gone by. You've been playing on 2B2T for, a while now. You've kind of understood what's going on. What were your thoughts on the server at this point and the community, I suppose, as a whole?
Well, yeah, I was definitely very addicted to playing. Like I had gotten, I kind of got fallen into the idea that the whole Russia war and FitMC and the veterans, and I was just basically playing on my own. But like it was crazy, all of the or just absorbing all of the kind of culture and people being just completely freedom of speech in the chat and everything. But I did enjoy it. I mean, I mostly kept to myself. I think around March 2017, I actually got the Discord. I was playing on different alternative server, Reconnect MC, and I got the Discord program just to show someone, that I was real. And then I think around that same time, I got invited to the Holy League Discord. So I got to see. I mean, I'd always talked in chat a little bit, and if I saw like an older player that I recognized, I would try and talk to them in the 2B chat. But going on Discord and meeting people on there and on the Reddit, I think that's around when I met Sniper, and basically that's when I started considering basing with other people. So it was cool. Communicating through signs and seeing people online, and then getting to know those people via the chat or on Discord. And that was when I really kind of started thinking about basing with other people, which that's what I think is probably the most exciting thing, if you're going to play, to be able to meet some other builders, meet some other people, and start building with another player.
Yeah, I suppose that really defines kind of the experience for you, if you stay by yourself or if you join other people, because your experience on 2B2T will be completely different. And it's interesting that you said you found them through Discord and through the subreddit, things that really back in the day weren't a thing. The only way people would communicate were in Skype chats, and those used to be pretty much private. So it's interesting the way that Discord came to be used. You could really find other players a lot easier and speak to them, even though you weren't part of the same group yet, or maybe you weren't basing together yet, or anything like that. You can speak to other players from all around the map without necessarily having to, do it in public chat, or even be basing with them and have an alliance yet. So rather than waiting for a temp map like a lot of people used to do, sort of a few years before that, you could just easily kind of network, I guess, and find people on the server. So you said you joined up with Sniper and you based with other people, at least you were considering basing with other people. So obviously now, a few years later, we know that you've been at quite a few bases. Which kind of bases would you say are close to your heart, and which bases were your favorite or just a fun time to be at?
Okay, yeah. Well, I threw the signs at the Hudson Inn Fitz 2013 base. I was able to talk to a player called the Final Benless, and we he asked me to join him at his base. It's not really been discovered yet on 2B, but it has, but not. It's not on the archive or anything. It's a giant gate, like, or underground, large hole underground, and it has a chessboard. So I had a lot of fun there. That was my first base mate, really. and I was able to, provide him with some duped items. He was a vanilla player still, and so we were basically digging out the hole together. I was like auto fishing and making custom gear, and I gave him some of his first gapples or mending books and stuff like that. So it was really a different time back then. And then through Reddit, I met Sniper, and we around that same time decided that we were going to make a base together with another player, Red Stoner, and we started a base, and then that base kind of, my friend RPB, he ended up coming, and I guess he wasn't like thrilled that I was basing with those two, so he kind of trolled us, and that's what ended that small base. And Red Stoner went on his way to the world border, but that was when basically we founded Valinor, which was basically Sniper and I's idea to start a group base. We had Zuzlin and mine 1001 as basemates. So that later on we ended up adding Pyromaniac, and there was a few other notable people. Negative Entropy came for a bit, but so that was probably my most memorable or favorite time, was just basing with the guys out at Valinor. Just having fun, just building, and it just felt peaceful because we were out in the millions, and I finally felt safe to build and just having a good time. It wasn't like we had a huge amount of a dupe stash or anything. I just had a little bit from 1111, and we mostly just built as we went. It wasn't like a crazy schematica base or anything like that. Just a simple base. We didn't all have a lot of time, but it was, for us, special because it was our first real, group base experience.
Yeah, that sounds great. So I suppose the first kind of group bases when you're meeting people, and like you said, even though you didn't have like the huge dupe stashes back then and things like that, it was kind of like just a base to chill at, I suppose. Just somewhere where guys could get together and just have a chill time out in the millions. So you didn't have to worry too much, I suppose. Because at the time, I'm not sure if Elytra were back on at the time, but at least you were relatively safe from other people, so you didn't really have the drama, I guess, that a lot of closer bases would have had. Speaking, obviously with group bases, it comes with drama. What's your experience on 2B2T been like in terms of drama? Have you been a part of any drama? Have you witnessed any drama? You did mention that one of your very first few bases did fall because of a bit of jealousy maybe and a bit of drama there. So what have you kind of seen in your journey around 2B2T in terms of drama?
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of factions and drama when I was playing in 2017. We really did try to stay out of it. We were a group base, but we didn't try to call ourselves a faction. Sniper did involve himself in many groups, and that ended up being kind of the downfall of the base. Just a little bit, he got a little bit excited and wanting to show off the base, and it proved to be, ended up kind of compromising our location slightly. So there was drama there. People wanted to blow us up, Autism Bot and Jared, and they were all looking for us. So it kind of, it was hard on the morale of the base. So we ended up, mostly it kind of, like, the base kind of died out at that point. But we ended up doing a lot of satellite bases. I went off on my own and built Paragon. RPB, my good friend, I kind of met him early 2016, and we played base together on Constantium a bit. And so I made a little base, Princess Jessie's Palace, with him near it's kind of near where the old ruins of Valkyrie are, and did a couple different like small base. I'd never really based at Sniper's Peaceful Island, but that was one of the more notable bases. And of course, there was all of the groups back then. I guess it was like Highland, Infrared. There was still Voco, and then of course Dark Emperor with the Imperium. So it was a lively time for all of the factions, all of the drama, and I despised it. Mostly just like to keep to myself and build, but inevitably, like those people ended up coming and griefing some of the bases. So I was salty about Paragon getting grief. I knew it was close to it was a base on the Z plus axis, and it was really close to the axis. So I was expecting it to be a sandcastle, but at the same time, it ended up being destroyed based on the fact that Infrared had found it, and then they claimed it to be their own. So like they ended up getting it blown up by I think it was the Imperium or something like that.
Oh,
It's
no
just
way.
yeah. So a lot of drama back then, and I just tried to avoid it. I think most of our bases were either blown up by some older players, like nerds type players, or Imperium. So I mean, I get it. That's like, a lot of people like to group, do factions, and there's a certain power with that. But for us, it was just like, oh no, not again. Like, we got found, and we have to move again, and and it just ended up being a series of the Peaceful Island bases and the small satellite bases that we didn't want to invite everybody to the main base because we were paranoid about getting leaked. So we would make small bases, and that was fun. I had a lot of fun and met some other players, and that kind of we got to gain some trust of other players, and in turn maybe invite them to the main base. So it was a good time.
I mean, yeah, paranoia is kind of the best way to keep your base safe on 2B2T. I mean, I can think of so many bases that kind of went the same way that you mentioned. When somebody wants to show it off, it could be good intentions. They just want to tell one of their other friends in another group about your base, and then before you know it, there's like 50 people that know where you're basing, and one person has a problem with you, and then that's it. The base is gone. So yeah, it's the way that a lot of bases go on 2B2T, I guess. So quite a few bases then. Keeping yourself to yourself is a good idea, I think, on 2B2T. I think that's what a lot of people have done. I know, kind of back in my era, that's what a lot of people did at first. Definitely, for sure, at first, they would just kind of not get too involved, especially when you see in chat what's happening on 2B2T. Like you said earlier at the beginning of the episode, like there isn't any rules in chat, so the first thing you see when you join generally is just a terrible chat, whether it be some racist stuff going on or somebody getting doxxed publicly in chat. It kind of makes a lot of people step back a little bit rather than jump in. So yeah, that's really cool. And in terms of events, because obviously bases and group bases are cool and they have their own events and things like that, but 2B2T and a lot of other bases, 2B2T and a lot of other servers, they have kind of events that happen as well. I mean, recently we've just had, was it the 2B2T Oscars or something like that happen? Were there any events that you witnessed on 2B2T or you were even a part of?
I didn't participate in all of the incursions that were during my time, but I did make an effort to go to incursion 6. And that was the one where we had decided to build of the wall around 1,000 by 1,000. So I did come to spawn for that, and I placed some obsidian into the wall, and met some players there. I participated in the VCs with Ant Venom. It was at the time where Ant Venom had done his invasion, or he'd done his video, and his fans had invaded the server briefly. It was on the temp map to begin with. I think it might have been the spring of 2018 or somewhere in there. but we we had a good time in Incursion 6. Just talking in VC with Ant, being in there and showing him some cool, some cool things. I basically just built a little bit of the wall. I wasn't a super active participant in the incursion itself, but I got to meet up with some players. It was nice to feel like the walls come down a little bit, like I guess you could say similar to like a temp map in the old days where everybody would come to spawn here, and just it didn't really matter what faction or team you were on. We were all part of a group effort to kill the ants and build the wall. And yeah, I ended up I ended up meeting up with Fit a little bit. I went to his old base and rebuilt it because it at that point had been destroyed. I'd rebuilt it several times at that point, but got to meet up with him and show him the base, even though it was hardly recognizable to what he had. I'm sure when he left it in 2013, it was quite different. But yeah, so it was cool. Just meeting up with everybody and getting to know everybody a little bit. I think I might have met Galvatron there during that incursion. There was a couple other players, maybe Rooster 548, and I think solo player. So yeah, it's definitely fun to be part of the incursion thing. I think we kind of miss that a little bit nowadays, and I think it would be nice to try and be able to find a way that we can all just play and kind of forget about the drama, forget about the factions, and just play Minecraft. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, that sounds very similar. I can definitely relate to a lot of that. I think incursions are a great thing because sometimes you don't even need a reason for an incursion. I mean, when you look at the third incursion, it basically was because I think it was Asgard 2 got griefed, and we just had nothing to do. So we just started an incursion. There wasn't really a thing that happened. Nobody came on the server. Nobody, was flooding the server, or it wasn't a faction thing or anything like that. It was just something to do. And like you said, it's great because people get involved that similar to a temp map. Like you said, people get involved that you wouldn't really speak to normally, or maybe even base with. Mainly, not because you don't like each other or you don't know each other or something like that, but sometimes it's just the distance between bases, and you can only be at so many bases at a time, which makes it difficult. So to be able to take a break, leave your base, head to spawn, meet a bunch of other people, there's kind of less risk, I suppose, because what did you do when you go? Because I mean, in my experience, when I've been to kind of spawn events, I generally just chested all of my stuff, like chested it and stuff like that. So if you got killed, who really cares? Because you're at spawn anyway. Is that kind of what your plan was there as well?
Yeah, I mean, at the time I had a couple of alt accounts, so I went on the John Mellencamp account that I have, and yeah, of course I just killed myself to spawn, and I think at the time I still had some like duped armor and whatnot, so I was able to pull out a little bit and just get equipped relatively quickly. Luckily, there were other players there that had my back. I think I was working on the X plus wall, but yeah, it was you're not. It's a different. I guess it was a little bit different time in terms of like I wasn't super worried about my items. I mean, in 2016, like I think I had gone trying to pass through spawn to get to Valinor, and there was a lot of crystallers and stuff like that. So at the time, like I remember Panda, I think it was the Peacekeeper or whatever. He had blown me up at that time, and I'd had like some of my custom gear, and I remember being really bummed out that they could just blow me up, and I would lose that type of like stuff that was sentimental to me. But at the time of Incursion 6, it was more just I was pretty well equipped. I had luckily I think after mine had done some duping in the donkey dupe, and then when mine and we actually were rebuilding Avalon, or kind of, taking away the lava casts and building it what we could.
Oh, amazing! I didn't
Yeah,
realize you did that. That's pretty cool.
yeah, and that's when the crafting dupe was around, so he was able to do a quick like in a quick period, he was able to do a fair amount of duping of what he had from the donkey dupe. So just being with mine, I was lucky enough to have kept a bunch of the stash from his dupe, and was feeling fairly well off at that point. But it does you do have to kind of just kill yourself to spawn, and I think it was a communal thing. So like you could get, if you needed obsidian, you could get e-chest shulkers from other people. I think I mostly just used my own, just donated some of my own supplies. But it was a time where, like, if you needed a flint and steel or whatever, you could ask your fellow incursion member, and they, or a bow. I remember Solo 88 gave me a bow, so I held on to that, and it's just like little things like that that were kind of sentimental, from the incursion. So I did have a really fun time meeting new people, and getting like the experience of that, which was kind of my only time doing something like that.
No, that's pretty cool. And I suppose you kind of got the the really authentic 2B2T experience in when you were crossing spawn to get to your base as well. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Was it so with Valinor and things like that? Are these bases that are on the archive now? Are these bases that people can go and explore?
The Paragon base is on there. Princess Jessie's is on there. A lot of my smaller bases, Turpin, he really likes my smaller bases. The Hudson Inn is on there as well. Since it's fallen, I put that on there, and there's actually a small 2011 base that had featured in a video, and we put that on there as well. Yeah, it's so a lot of my bases are on there. Valinor in particular, we decided that we weren't going to release the world download, just because it's still, it's so far out, and I think most of the base members didn't really want to share it. But yeah, there are definitely bases on there that are donated by myself, that you can visit some of these places, and it's fun for me. Sniper's Peaceful Island is on there. I didn't build there, but the Peaceful Islands, I think the second one we called the Peaceful Islands, that's on there as well. So yeah, there's definitely a handful of bases on there that I've been at. Or I think Avernus, we actually did do in 2018 a base where we all agreed that we would just play in vanilla for the most part, maybe like using free cam, but no real hacks. And Pyromaniac and Wayland, they were the main builders at that base. I kind of just showed up and built a little hut. But yeah, there's a wonderful base on there called Avernus, that was built mostly in vanilla, or I guess 100% in vanilla. So that was a cool experience as well.
That's cool. So essentially, as people are kind of listening to this podcast, they could jump on the archive. They can sort of take a look at some of these bases that are being spoken about. That's a really cool thing, I guess, with the archive now. There's so many bases on there. When people hear about them, they can just jump on and take a look for themselves and kind of see how it was. And to think that, some bases that you made in 2016, 2017 and onwards in vanilla on 2B2T, that's kind of even cooler as well. So you've been on 2B2T a long time. You kind of have given your thoughts on the server when you joined. What are your thoughts on the server now, and kind of your thoughts on the server and the community, I guess? What do you think about them now that you've spent, the last, what is it, since 2016? I mean, it's like almost 6 years, right? In fact, it has been 6 years since you've been playing. So, what are your thoughts on the server now?
Yeah, well, it's easy to be a little bit negative about how the server has gone. I mean, we all have our own memories. I'm sure as an older player, it was such a different time, and that's the big gap in terms of vastly different. I'm assuming from what I've heard from other older players that it was way different before the Russia invasion, and then for a rusher like me, just slowly. I mean, with Venom coming and the YouTube algorithm changing, it was just became harder and harder to join the server. I remember it being, very little queue in 2017 and basically not having to pay for priority. And then it just became so busy with FitMC popularity and other YouTubers joining that it definitely got harder and harder. I suppose, like I said, it's easy to be negative about the community being more. I don't know. It's not necessarily toxic, but just more kind of clueless as to like what the original kind of idea of the server is, and all kind of feeding into YouTuber propaganda or whatnot. I kind of disappointed in that. I mean, it's harder and harder to find the older feel of the server, where even in 2017 we all kind of knew everybody knew your name, and you knew lots of people in the tab list. So I mean, I'm sure it's a lot to do with the fact that I personally don't play quite as much as I did back then. So I don't know a lot of the people. There are still some groups that are very, very cool. And I participated in a few of them that, actually have good communities that are trusting, and they can base together, and they're all good friends. But the majority of what now that has taken over the subreddit, and with I guess whoever that kind of runs the server doing all that they can, which I know it's important to keep the server, lag free, and make it playable, and certain people are, will try to be malicious, but it's definitely taken a toll on the morale. The time, in fact, just the fact that we're still in 1.12 is a huge discouraging thing for many people. So it's definitely changed. I like I said, I don't play as much. So it's nice to see. Like, I know I saw the video of Don Four and Aureus, and having them bring the old players such as yourself back. So it's when you see something like that, you realize that it's really, there's still some cool people and some cool groups still around. The Spawn Masons, I think of them as one of the groups that, still has a strong, core that of builders. But yeah, in general, it's hard for older players. As you get older, you just get so annoyed with the young people that really don't have a clue, and they're just saying all these things that they heard on YouTube, and that type of thing can really get to you. But it's nice to see that there's still some good in 2B2T, I believe.
Exactly, yeah. Like you said, it all depends on how you look at it, I guess. I think servers kind of do have a natural progression. Just thinking about kind of the server I moved to before Russia joined 2B2T, Constantium, that's kind of had the same sort of thing. Like when you've just been speaking about, when you look back and you think about the first few years that you played and things like that, there is that nostalgia, and then you look at what it's become. And I suppose it's because I don't know the way to describe it. I suppose the way that anarchy servers live, I guess, kind of their life cycle, they do go through these phases, and they all kind of go through these changes where people will join and not really know anything about the history and try and create their own history and things like that. But also, yeah, for sure, the 2B2C algorithm, for sure, the YouTube algorithm when it comes to 2B2T, it's really pushing it now. I mean, I know just personally from my videos, when I do something on Constantium versus when I do something on 2B2T, it gets pushed a lot more by YouTube, especially if you just discuss something that has something to do with anarchy, like I suppose the 1.19 chat reporting feature that's coming in. That video exploded because there's so many people that are worried about that with anarchy and things like that, and it's just pushing it to those people. And it's interesting, you can see who it's being pushed to, and it is just being pushed to people who are interested in anarchy. So I suppose there's a lot of people that are trying to make, some content on 2B2T, and if it means that they have to, bend the truth a little bit, unfortunately, it seems like that is something that YouTubers are doing, and then you get people join because they subscribe to those YouTubers and they don't really know anything about 2B2T. So, like you said, yeah, I imagine it could be quite frustrating, especially if it's on a server that you're still kind of active in. So, you mentioned you don't really play on 2B2T much anymore. Do you play on any other servers at all at the minute? Or have you?
Yeah.
Or have you? Sorry, or have you played any servers since you started on Anarchy on 2B2T?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, it was difficult back even in 2016 to join the server as there was no queue yet. And you basically had to auto click to get in. So I played a little bit on all of the clone servers myself personally. I didn't abstain from playing on the smaller servers. I played on 4B, 4T, and 9B, 9T, Constantium, and it was nice because I was able to meet some people and get some basemates through those servers as well. And then in later years, I didn't really play 4B or 9B a lot because I didn't feel like they weren't really that great of anarchy servers. 4B constantly was going through map changes, and 9B was kind of a little too easy. Like they would use too many dupes, or the timer hack was allowed, so it just didn't feel quite as difficult or the proper anarchy to me. So yeah, Constantium was definitely a good alternative for me. We ended up basing. We made Sniper Town, which was a small base that inevitably got griefed by the nerds, but it was a fun time. And then we made a second Sniper Town that was a nice base. I wasn't able to play there very much, but that those type of series of bases kind of continue. Unfortunately, the players that I played with in 2017 and even like throughout the years, a lot of them have moved on. So a lot of those bases lay dormant, but there is a really cool base I think I have there with Kyle Rayner and a lot of really great players, and that's kind of laying dormant as well. But it's nice to have the alternative servers, in my opinion, is even if it's just like a private server that you play on with some of the really cool people that you've met. I really enjoy doing that, even if it's just in vanilla. I like to just play on the smaller servers when I can. I do play on 2B2T a little bit. I was invited to Chunkhaven. That was a Spawn Mason base that was very close to Spawn, so that was easy to just hop in and play. And I'm still semi-active as of this month. I just got a priority account, so I'm doing a little bit of basing with some old friends, and occasionally go back to old 2016 bases, and if they're still not found yet, like base there with my friends and rebuild. So I think I did that in 2020. That was a really fun project. But yeah, just having IRL busy life, being an adult and working and I play music, so I don't have a lot of free time really to play video games. But when I do, I still play occasionally on the clone servers. I usually just log in to see how things are doing. But and it's hard when you get into 2B2T, even if it's just for the month. It's nice, you kind of get that bug or that itch to play, because it really is the original server that brought us all here. And I definitely enjoy playing and basing with friends. So still in my heart.
Yeah, I suppose it's always easy to get back into 2B2T, right? No matter kind of how long you stay away. I mean, it had been 6 years since I'd played. But then to hear that Aureus, city had been rebuilt by the Don Furo group, it was crazy to just come back in, and it was almost like no time had passed at all. You could just jump straight back in. Obviously, your inventory is still there, mind you. It was like April 2016, so it was just full of dirt and things like that. But so that was interesting, yeah, to log back into a base that the last time I did, I think, stream in like 2017 when Aureus was destroyed, and I was kind of just showing off the ruins. Logged out, logged back in, and it was it was rebuilt. So it's kind of like stepping back in time. But then times have changed, so everyone's kind of a little bit more OP, I guess, than you. Even though you spend some time off, there's always some sort of exploit that comes out. There's always some kind of dupe. I mean, just thinking about for when you joined in 2016, I mean, from 2016 to now, how many dupes have there been? There's been, I don't know, 5 or 6, maybe more. There's been like what, the chunk dupe, the donkey dupe, like you mentioned. I'm struggling to think of others, but I think they had like a minecart or something like that. Putting zombies through end portals and stuff like that, holding a shulker full of stuff. Yeah, there's been a lot of dupes. So things change so rapidly, but you always sort of get back into the feel of Minecraft, I think, when you go on. So yeah, that's kind of interesting then. So you're popping in every now and then to see how things are. Are you signing into the other servers, so like the clone servers you mentioned, like the XBXT, 4B4B, 4B4T, 9B90, etc., and Constantium? Are you logging in just to check on your bases to see if they're still around, or because it is interesting that you did say that one of your bases on Constantium, I think it was, got wrecked by one of the Nerd Inc. guys, slash Tyranny. So it's interesting that they've kind of followed you to different servers, kind of, because you did have a base on 2B destroyed by them early on. And for them to kind of follow on, it's kind of like the same story, but just on another server, I suppose. So yeah, do you sort of come on just to make sure that everything's still standing? Or do you kind of join in a little bit as well when you join?
I mean, lately, most of the thing I never with the 4B being map changes, I never amounted to much on there. I mean, I started building a highway in the very beginning of the server, and I built a small base. 9B, it seems like everything has been discovered. Sadly, all the old 2016 bases, and even some of the newer things when I tried playing there in 2018, 2019, just get discovered for one reason or another. Who knows? No com or whatever. I think there was some no com bases that happened on 2B 2T as well. That, like, for a while there, it was just like uncanny that you could just you don't have any idea how people found you, but then you found out that was there was a huge exploit there. But yeah, I still, in terms of logging in and logging out, that's mainly Constantium. I still have things standing on there, and I mostly just log in, log out to see if it's still around. I'd love to revive some of those projects if if ever like I have the time or the people decide to come back. But yeah, I guess it's similar to like when you logged in to Aureus like in 2017. Actually, I remember that because I did really enjoy the Coliseum build that you had there, and I remember when you logged in and everything being destroyed. So it must have been quite a trip to see it all come back and base there. But yeah, it's mostly just a quick log in, log out, maybe end up chat for a little bit if I see somebody that's on. But yeah, if I'll play when I have the time. I'll keep playing 2B2T for the next month with the prio, and maybe keep building at a little base that I have there. And who knows? If I end up feeling like I have the time to base, maybe I'll get back on some of those those cool places on Constantium as well.
Yeah, as life goes on, I guess you kind of get busier, you know, more responsibilities and things like that, and spending, you know, 6-7 hours a day on Minecraft, like I suppose we used to be able to do, is a lot harder. So it kind of makes it harder, I guess, to keep up with bases and the community and things like that. That kind of are always going. There's no stop. You know, sometimes you would just go to sleep and wake up and your base is gone, just because, you know, everything carries on. It's a global phenomenon now, this Anarchy Minecraft thing. So no matter what time it is, there's always people online. There's always something going on. So yeah, that's really interesting to hear your kind of view and the time you're spending on other servers as well as 2B2T. So yeah, I mean, thank you so much for your time today. I think unless there's anything else, I think that's probably a wrap.
No, yeah, thank you. This was great. Thanks for having me, like I said, and I really appreciate you asking me to be on your podcast.
Hey, no worries. Thank you so much. And yeah, so is there anything that you would like to sort of plug? I guess maybe at the end, have you got anything going on? Sort of any Discords or YouTube or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, if any of the old players I played with are listening, I did just try to revive the post June. It's a 2B2T post June. I mean, older players are definitely welcome in the Discord as well. But just trying to get some of the old 2016 and on players back in the Discord, just to have some VCs, maybe play some casual games together. Reminisce and talk, but other than that, yeah, I think that's about it in terms of what I'm willing to talk about with my 2B2T adventures.
That's it. Excellent. Well, yeah. Thank you so much for your time, Sage, and thank you everyone for listening. If you enjoy episodes like this, please do subscribe. It's great to see so many people subscribing recently. We're almost at 3K, so thank you so much for that. Again, Sage, thank you so much, and thank you for listening.